Scrapped Pokemon. Several amazing Pokemon or early beta designs for Pokemon have been scrapped and have been revealed to the public over the years through various data mines and other methods, making us question, what if? Or ask the obvious question, why? What made them decide to scrap these designs? I mean, there's certainly several designs and I'm sure several others, wish they would have kept. But we don't know their reasoning for scrapping these Pokemon, and I'm sure they had their reasons, whether that was cartridge capacity or something else. We just don't know. At least not for all of these scrap designs, and we may never know. But it sure is fun to speculate and just think about. It's also interesting to point out that a lot of these scrap designs have lived on in various other Pokemon designs throughout the years. Well, in today's video, I'll be revealing some of my own scrapped Pokemon, or Fakemon designs rather, for my Icelandic and Norse-inspired Fakemon region, the Fyrúnian region. But being as I've always been so fascinated to as why Pokemon has scrapped their Pokemon or beta designs, I thought it would be fun to dedicate an entire video to my own scrapped Pokemon or Fakemon designs and tell you exactly why it is they ended up not making the cut. Given this video is dedicated solely to scrapped Pokemon, I was a little nervous to release this video, I am not gonna lie, as people always seem to lose their minds every time I scrap or even make a change to one of my Fakemon. I find it flattering, don't get me wrong, and I get it, some people just don't like change, but it's also a little frustrating for me as well. I briefly covered this at the end of my last video, but cutting a Fakemon that I came up with, took the time to research, and most importantly paid a pretty penny for, is never easy. So please know, if I cut a Fakemon, it's for a wide variety of reasons that I'll happily share with you, but whether or not you agree with my decisions or reasoning is irrelevant, to be honest. I don't mean to sound rude, but at the end of the day, it's my decisions I have to live with, and my vision I have to see through for my Fakemon regions, not to mention my money to be spent. So please don't waste my time telling me why you think it's different enough, or I should keep it, etc. I guarantee you I have already thought most of this through, and more importantly made my mind up. So all I think when people write these kind of comments in a video where I clearly go into my reasoning, is that they clearly weren't listening to anything I had to say. And please know, these designs being scrapped had absolutely nothing to do with the artworks themselves. Even though they were ultimately cut, all of the artists I commissioned to draw all of these Fakemon did an incredible job as always. I wouldn't have commissioned them otherwise, and I've commissioned a lot of them for several other Fakemon arts for both of my Fakemon regions. So please make sure to check them all out. Their names and a link to their pages will be provided in the bio below. And I once again want to thank all of you, the artists who helped me bring these designs to life. I'm sorry that they were cut from the region, but I am so glad that I got to feature them here in this video. Anyways, I really hope that puts some of this into perspective for you, and that being said, since these Pokemon were scrapped, I'm not going to get into as much detail as I do in my normal videos, but we'll go into their overall concepts, the creative process, and most importantly, why they were scrapped. Now this video will be short and sweet compared to my usual videos, so let's get right into it. The first scrapped Pokemon I'd like to cover is near and dear to me, as it is actually the very first Fakemon I ever created, commissioning the insanely talented artist Startboy, as they were one of the first artists to draw me to the Fakemon community, as I thought that their artwork just looked so official. So I am absolutely thrilled to finally be able to share with you Hocus, the apprentice Pokemon. Hocus love to disappear into their hats, which act as portals that they use to bounce around. They know a variety of tricks, but oftentimes lack the confidence to pull them off. Incredibly loyal to their master, whether their evolved stage Pocus or their Pokemon trainer, Hocus make the perfect partners. Hocus evolves into Pocus, the magician Pokemon. Pocus are master magicians always looking to put on a show, usually accompanied by a loyal Hocus. Naturally devious by nature, Hocus love to both entertain and deceive Pokemon and humans alike with their impressive repertoire of parlor tricks. If you couldn't tell, they are inspired by white rabbits and magicians. The first stage Hocus is more like the rabbit magicians pull out of the hat, and as its dex entry states, it can use its hat as a portal to teleport away, to reference rabbits disappearing and appearing out of magicians' hats. Whereas its evolution Pocus is more of the master magician itself. and a lot more devious. The psychic typing comes from the fact magic is often represented through the psychic typing in Pokemon, with Pokemon such as Abra, Kadabra, Alakazam, and several moves like Eerie Spell. Their names, Hocus Pocus, like the Abracadabra Alakazam line by the way, is also a phrase often used in Magic, so it follows the same trend. These two Pokemon even had a signature psychic type move called Magic Trick, which was like Metronome in the sense that it ended up using one of 3 random moves, both of which being unique to this Pokemon line. The first being Card Trick,
which had a high chance of causing the target to flinch.
The second being Hat Trick, which is like Spiky Shield or King's Shield, as it protects the user and lowers the special attack stat of the attacker as well. And the last being Box Trick, which is a one-hit KO move. So that's obviously the one I think most people would hope for. Hocus and Pocus were going to be thrown into my first Fakemon region, the Luika region, out of sentimentality, but as I already had so many animal species to draw from in Africa, I felt adding a Magician Rabbit would be doing the Pokedex a disservice. I even briefly contemplated using it in the Fyrúnian region instead, which is exactly why it's obviously featured in this video, as I felt it would be a better fit. But once again, it just didn't feel right in the Pokedex alongside all the Norse and Icelandic designs, one of which even being a normal psychic type as well, the Squiroll and Raratoskroll line. So it would have been a little repetitive, but given how much I love these Fakemon being my firstborns, with co-parent Startboy of course, I'm so glad to finally be able to feature these amazing designs. Since I decided not to officially use them, I gifted them to a friend of mine a few months ago to use properly in his Canadian Fakemon region, that way they don't go to waste. Look, if you love someone, you have to know when to let them go, and I know these two are in good hands. I even asked Ateus, now that these belong to him, if I could feature them in this video, and he was kind enough to let me do so. So please stay tuned for that. I personally cannot wait to see them be introduced in the Ateus region. Next up, we have what would have been 2 regional variants from my first Fakemon region, the Luika region. Jerbean and Herbal both being inspired by gerbils and bean sprouts as evident in their tails and the round shapes of their bodies. But for their Fyrúnian variants, I decided to darken them up a bit to fit that niche of a Route 1 dark type rodent introduced in the Alola region with the Alolan Rattata and Raticate line, and once again in the Galar region with the Galarian Zigzagoon, Lanoon, and Obstagoon line. I already continued this trend in my first Fakemon region, the Luika region, with Luikan Yongoose, Gomshoos, and a brand new evolution, Alcapos. But I thought it'd be unique to do something different in the Fyrúnian region and make one for one of my own Fakemon, which is why I decided to ultimately make one for Gerbean, being the Luika region's Route 1 normal type. Fyrúnian, Jerbean, and Herbal are inspired by hipsters and coffee beans, as Iceland, which the Fyrúnian region is inspired by, is one of the largest coffee consumers in the world. Icelanders drink a lot of coffee at an average of 9 kilograms per year, and Iceland's unique brewing process is said to produce some of the best coffee in the world as well. I was really fascinated by this, and when researching anything, I like to get at least 3 credible sources, and Wikipedia doesn't count, by the way. That being said, this was one of my favorite articles I came by, so I'll put a link to this article down below in my bio if you yourself would like to learn even more about Iceland's coffee culture. While I really like the idea of following this trend and having one of my own Fakemon as the dark normal type Route 1 regional, of course this was before Gen 9 came along and scrapped this trend altogether. So that was part of the reason I decided to do the same. The other reasons being I had way too many dark and grass type Pokemon, including the starter, Berserker, who shared Herbil's dark grass typing. And the main reason being, Gerbean is getting a very subtle and slight redesign for the Luika reboot to look even more like a Jerboa, and its name will be spelt Jerbean with the J. So I really didn't feel like having to redesign this regional's artwork as well to make these changes, and given people don't normally like or use Route 1 mammals anyways, I figured this would be a safe Pokemon scrap as it became more clear that I had to axe certain Pokemon from my Fyrúnian decks. Plus, the fact that gerbils can't be found in Iceland, while not imperative to a Pokedex, let alone a Fakemon region, helped me make this decision as well. But the wonderful artist and artist Astray I commissioned for this line did an amazing job. This has nothing to do with his talent. They are full of personality, and despite making this tough call, I absolutely love how they turned out. Another Fyrúnian regional form that was scrapped, which I briefly covered at the end of my last video dedicated to Fyrúnian regional forms and evolutions, was Fyrúnian Wailord. I absolutely loved this Fakemon. I know a lot of people did. The artist trainer Matt who did it, once again, I say this all the time, is one of my absolute favorites. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a laundry list of reasons why I felt cutting this design was for the best. That being said, yes, a Titan also being slightly inspired by a Narwhal, and an Ice type to boot, partly had something to do with this line being cut, but not completely, as I don't think you need me to tell you that they look absolutely nothing alike. What it really came down to is I wanted to get the Fear Index down to 120 new Pokemon, as I realized some Pokemon needed to be cut to make room for last minute additions, such as the Jawful line, in order for my Instagram posts to line up, and for me to hit that sweet spot of a number I really wanted to. And this one just made the most sense, as I already had a large number of a lot of ice and water types in the Fyrúnian region, not to mention a whale line in the form of Oiluga and Cetacrude, already representing the Beluga whale, and the Orca, also known as the Killer Whale, as well as the evil whales from Icelandic mythology. And of course it's a Titan line, which I felt fit right at home in the Fyrúnian region, and I decided to give a forge form shortly after it was introduced. So the Fyrúnian region already had its fair share of whale species, as well as ice and water types, making this decision rather easy if I'm being absolutely honest. Plus, while Trainer Mott did an absolutely beautiful job on the artwork itself, I feel like I, personally, could have been a lot more creative with the concept and design for this Fakemon. I mean, a Narwhal with an ice horn. As someone who prides himself on thinking outside of the box and trying to be as original and creative as possible with my Fakemon concepts, in retrospect, I know I could have done a lot better. Next up is Misfortune, which was intended to be a counterpart to Dhelmise, as I made a lot of counterpart Pokemon for the Fyrúnian region. This design was done by the talented artist Fungus Fakemon. Misfortune's name comes from misfortune and fortune as in treasure, as it's based on a treasure chest, like those pirates search for are at the bottom of the sea. I thought a Dhelmise counterpart would be fitting for such a seafaring region like the Fyrúnian region because it has strong Viking history. Being as it's a counterpart like Dhelmise, it shares its grass ghost typing, as the algae itself is meant to be the actual Pokemon, just like Dhelmise's concept. I even gave it a signature ability just like Dhelmise's Steelworker, mirroring that, called Jeweler, but instead does the same exact thing for rock-type moves, giving stab to rock-type attacks such as Power Gem and Ancient Power. The main reason I scrapped this line was due to the reveal of Gimmighoul also being a ghost-type treasure chest Pokemon. Look, I know they look different enough, blah blah blah. I only made a treasure chest Pokemon though, because it hadn't been done before. If Gimmighoul was a thing before I made this line, I would have picked a different sea-related object to make this Pokemon around. So even if I kept this Pokemon at some capacity, I would have had to change its concept and get new artwork for it anyways. So I just decided to scrap it all together to save the trouble. And once again, I also already had too many grass types, and even too many ghost types for that matter. So it was probably for the best. Auroragon is an ice dragon type, its name being a play on Aurora and dragon. Its armor made of ice is shimmering with beautiful colors like that of the Northern Lights. This was the pseudo for the Fyrúnian region at a time where I only had one pseudo very early into the region's development before I kind of settled on its theme of duality, and it was even one of the first Fakemon I revealed for the region long before even posting it. However, as a lot of my more loyal followers know, this design wasn't scrapped per se, it was more so just redesigned into the current pseudo Jotundra. But given I changed its inspiration and its design to be more like Ymir and the frost giants from Norse mythology, as well as its name, I kind of count it as a new mon entirely, as the typing and its ice armor with the aura in it is pretty much the only thing that remained. But this version was scrapped to fit that concept and be more of a counterpart for the fire pseudo Magnarok, now that the region has this theme of duality, both of which will be revealed in a new video hopefully sometime at the end of next month. But this design, which I worked with the talented Pokemon on, was way too epic not to feature in this video, but the changes were made to make it a much better fit for the Fyrúnian region, as I drew more from Norse mythology in this redesign. and I am positive you will all love Jotundra's slick new design just as much, if not more, than Auroragon's design. A couple honorable mentions, not for scrap Pokemon, but redesigns or beta designs, would be a slight redesign for the Roaster line, to give it more color and personality, redesigns for the Squiroll and Raratoskroll lines, as I wanted them to look even more scholarly and mystical, as I briefly mentioned in the video they were introduced in, and Spiritom's evolution Phantomb, as I felt it looked just like a roided out Spiritomb or Mega Evolution, rather than an actual evolution. Speaking of which, next week's video, I hope to feature the cross-gen evolutions of the Fyrúnian region, including Phantomb. They're all amazing, so please stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to hit that like button, as well as to subscribe to my channel for more Fakemon content, as I have plenty of exciting projects in the works, as well as the best of the Fyrúnian region right around the corner as we head towards the region's climax over the next few months. Also, please leave a comment down below to let me know what your favorite of these regional forms was. As most of you know, I have commissioned well over 30 talented artists at this point to help bring all of my Fakemon concepts, designs, and original characters to life. So please make sure to go support all of them as well, many of which have their own amazing Fakemon projects that I cannot recommend enough. Their contributions and links will be provided in the bio below, so please check that out. Once again, please make sure to subscribe, and I will see you shortly with a brand new video, so stay tuned for that.